Ladies and gentlemen, it's 167th day of the full-scale Russian invasion, ninth year of Ukrainian-Russia war. I'm Andriy Shevchenko. On behalf of Mediacentru Ukraine, I would welcome all the journalists covering our fight for freedom. With us, we have Oleksandr Starukh, head of Zaporizhia Oblast military administration. Alexander, let's start this conversation with the topic which has been covered in the mass media, and that is the developments at the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. What are the recent developments? As for the most recent development, the situation has been well documented, resulting from the Russian shelling. The security of the nuclear power plant is threatened. The deployment of the armed people with the ammunition at the nuclear power sites poses a grave threat to the life and health of millions or dozen million people. We had 6 nuclear power blocks working. We are the largest nuclear power plant in Europe. And with the beginning of the war, only 3 are remaining in operation, the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th, because of the start of hostilities. More recent shelling disrupted the energy supply to the station, and the operators has to reduce the capacity to 1,000 megawatt, although it was over 2.8 megawatt. So the plant consumes 130 megawatts to sustain itself, and the remaining energy is supplied to the Ukrainian grid. The situation is grave. All the statements of Energoatom for Ukraine has been made. The president has made a statement, and we are waiting for the international organizations to have their say, which were instituted to ensure nuclear safety for the world and to ensure the safe operation of nuclear facilities such as Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. If you would please explain to the people who are not vested in the technical operation of the plant, how serious is the threat, how major is the danger. The nuclear power block, it's a modern, advanced nuclear power block, unlike the Chernobyl a nuclear power plant, so the block itself is well fortified. We cannot guarantee security because there are armed people on the site with armaments there, and any explosion can be triggered. As for the radiation safety, it's now within the limits 12 to 15 microröntgen per hour at the site and in the city. There is a depository of nuclear waste, and the protective systems there are not as strong. It's powerful concrete, but it's not as strong as the protection of the threat. So at the plant, so the threat is ever present. As for the statement made by some Russian people, we can equate them to nuclear blackmail, because should anything happen, the winds will carry the nuclear waste in all direction towards Russia or across the Black Sea, and I hope this never happens. The Ukrainian staff are working in incredibly difficult conditions. The first responders have dealt with any damages. The engineers are working on the site, but the situation is very tense. We cannot give anyone any guarantees. To have the guarantees, we have to have effective control of this site. We have seen the situation and that there is artillery units and rocket launchers located close to the nuclear power site, which are used to launch attacks across the Dnieper River and in other directions. Would you please understand the logic of the Russian occupiers? What do they intend to use the nuclear power plant for? Is it an instrument of blackmail? Is it a leverage to force Ukraine and the world negotiate on Russia favorable terms? Is it a way to terrorize the locals, or are they bluffing? What is your read on their logic? Everything you have sent it is consistent and complementary. Russia has been using blackmail for decades as their instrument of exerting power, starting with the Soviet Empire, now with the Putin regime. Now they are blackmailing the world with the ploy of acting uncontrollable, the madman theory. So they're using the nuclear power plant as a leverage. And it's important that the international institutions do their part to demilitarize the nuclear power plant. And that is important for the security of the entire humanity, as Chernobyl has led to the uh, collapse of the Soviet Union. But this accident can trigger worse repercussions. We may find ourselves facing a grave situation that would make war fade in comparison. And Russians are using a nuclear power plant as the nuclear shield of a kind to bomb Nikopol, Marhanets, and other cities and towns, hiding back at the nuclear site, knowing that the Ukrainians would not attack the nuclear power station. So let us change the topic and discuss the events in the occupied territories of Zaporizhia. We heard that the Ukrainian Special Service have identified the collaborators acting on behalf of the Russian militia or Russian police, and it could be part of the preparation of the referendum that the occupational force may try to instigate. Any other developments from occupation? I wouldn't like to use the word referendum to describe what the Russians are doing. It is better called an informational special operation, because referendum cannot be announced in times of war under Ukrainian law, and Russian legislation does not provide for a referendum. So referendum is not the right word to use in this context. It's denigration of the word referendum. Let's call it a special informational operation. They have dedicated a lot of resources. They have brought in people from Crimea. The Federal Security Service of Russia is bringing in the people and the means to terrorize the local population. The methods the methods used by the Russians are similar to the methods used by terrorists. People are being abducted, held hostages. People are repressed. Parents are intimidated to subjugate the people, and the terrorist attacks are in full swing. However, the Ukrainian special services have identified the collaborators, have pressed charges against them for high treason and collaboration charges, and we know that they will be prosecuted and held accountable. What are the hottest areas of operation within your remit? This is the border between Donetsk and Zaporizhia. This is seeing the fiercest fighting. Hulepole was shelled this morning. Horikhiv was shelled. Kamensk in Vasilievsky district. Polohe came under fire. This is happening along the line of context. The fiercest shelling was in Pole. And are you seeing any indications of more Russian troops being redeployed to this area? We should ask this question to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. There are regular redeployments, and since we are between Kherson on the right bank, where the active hostilities are happening, and Donbass with active hostilities, we can see active amassment of the troops, and then they can be redeployed further towards Donbass or Kherson. So the likelihood of an assault is seen as low, but not ruling out it entirely. What are the key plans that you have at the moment? Everything is important these days. We are continuing to fortify our defenses. We continue evacuation of the people. We evacuated 1,410 people from Kherson and Donetsk. They have crossed the line of conflict and arrived in Zaporizhia. And we are continuing to organize hubs for the residents of Ukraine, including the residents of Kherson. We are working to prepare for the heating season, and that is a massive effort. We are fortifying our defenses. Every day is planned out in full. We are working to prepare for the upcoming academic year, as we need to make sure we can teach the children on the occupied territories and on the government-controlled territories as well. We are receiving assistance from the international organizations, and we're using them to renew, to conserve the housing, the social infrastructure facilities that have been damaged recently resulting from the shelling, and many other items are on our agenda. There's work cut out for everyone in here, but we are working with dedication and commitment. We are persevering. We know we are holding the ranks and working to bring our victory closer. This was Oleksandr Starukh, head of Zaporizhia Oblast Military Administration. Thank you for talking to us. Thank you. Have a good day, everyone. The next briefing is coming up at 12. We are looking for a team from Lviv National Philharmonics. Please stay with us. Stand